Good afternoon. My name is Jason Chavez, and I'm the chair of the Committee of the Whole. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to the members, public, and staff that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Wansley.
Present.
Rainville is absent. Vita.
Present.
Ellison.
Here.
Osman.
Present.
Cashman.
Present.
Jenkins is absent. Shuktai.
Present.
Koski.
Present.
Palmisano.
Present.
Present.
Vice Chair Chowdhury is absent. Chair Chavez.
Present.
There are 11 members present.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Before we begin the public hearing, we will first take up the consent agenda. The first item we have is setting a public comment period for our next meeting to receive comments regarding the city separation ordinance and city employee authority in immigration matters. This comment period will be on August 5th at 1:30 p.m. The second item is a passage of a resolution calling on the Trump administration to end the campaign of mass deportations and family separations. And I will check the queue. All right. I'll make the first comments. Colleagues, I'd like to talk about item number 3. I'm excited to bring forward this resolution calling on the Trump administration to end its campaign of mass deportations and family separations with Council Vice President Shuktai, the Vice Chair of the Committee, Councilmember Chowdhury, and Councilmember Osman, and most importantly, the Immigrant Defense Network, which established this year and is an alliance of over 90 immigrant label, legal, faith, and community organizations dedicated to protecting and advancing the constitutional rights of immigrant communities in the state of Minnesota. We also know that the St. Paul City Council and the Columbia Heights City Council will also be bringing forward similar resolutions, and we encourage other municipalities across the state and across the country to do the same. One thing I want to mention as we move forward with this resolution is that there are many families in this city and in this state and in this country that are afraid to go to school. I mentioned this yesterday at an event I was at. Many of our students here in public schools are fearful of going to get their education because the fear that ICE might be in the community or fear that their parents might be taken away while they are at school. And as we think about the ways that we need to improve our unjust immigration system, it's important to center the kids and the students and the young people that are being impacted from these inhumane actions from the federal government. I also want to make sure that our authors of this resolution also had a time to speak if they would want. But first person on queue is Councilmember Wansley.
Oh, this is in regards to the first item of the public comment, but please feel free to continue on with co-authors.
Perfect. Thank you. And if there is nobody else on queue, then we can just go on with, Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I'll keep my remarks brief. I just want to say I have really appreciated all of the Minneapolis residents in the last few months, especially since the Trump administration began reaching out to our council offices and pushing the city of Minneapolis to do better and right by the immigrant community. Your voice is extremely important in this moment. local government, state government, federal government needs to hear from you that you want government to step up to protect our immigrant community members, a stronger separation ordinance, efforts to make pathways to citizenship matter, standing up against xenophobia and Islamophobia. And you also have a huge voice and a role as neighbors in doing that and practicing that and sharing that in your neighborhood groups, in your block parties, in your apartment buildings. Words and actions, they all carry weight in this moment. It is a rather scary time in our country, but as a city of Minneapolis, I see the ways in which everyone is trying to find ways to lean in and become more resilient. And my heart just goes out to our immigrant community members who every single day are just fighting to thrive in our city, to survive in our city, oftentimes feel like they're pushed to be invisible. And I just want to say that you are not invisible. You absolutely matter. And we, as a city council and a local government, we will push alongside you to do everything possible to ensure that the city of Minneapolis stays to its values of being a welcoming city. And that's all I want to add.
And next up, we have Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I just wanted to speak to item number 2, which is the immigration enforcement public comment period, which today we'll be voting on setting that for August 5th, 2025, for community members to come and share their thoughts, their feelings regarding the city's current separation ordinance, and also encourage the public to watch the presentation that we received from city staff, specifically Minneapolis Police, regarding how they are currently in compliance with our separation ordinance. And I know much of the feedback that we received from that presentation, and coupling that with the horrible events that transpired on East Lake Street on June 3rd, where we now know the owners of the very business that was targeted were under ICE custody and detention. And we were told many times ICE was not present, ICE was not involved. So that has really put into question how we are truly enforcing and standing behind our separation ordinance. And I know residents want to share thoughts around that. And as Councilmember Chaudhry highlighted, ways in which we can strengthen our current separation ordinance so the events that unfolded on June 3rd never happen again, and we are not being complicit in the separation of our immigrant families and complicit with a Trump administration that is targeting our immigrant communities. So I encourage the public to turn out August 5th. That will be an opportunity to share your thoughts and to allow this body to take that into consideration as we're pursuing legislative steps to, again, hopefully rectify those harmful actions that took place. So thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else on queue, I will move approval to set the public hearing period for August 5th and move approval of the immigrant families resolution. And if the clerk can please call the roll on that.
Councilmember Payne. Wansley.
Aye.
Rainville.
Aye.
Vita.
Aye.
Ellison.
Aye.
Osman.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Jenkins.
Aye.
Shuktai.
Aye.
Koski.
Aye.
Palmisano.
Aye.
Payne.
Aye.
Vice Chair Chowdhury.
Aye.
Chair Chavez.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes and no nays.
Thank you. That motion carries. All right, colleagues. Now we will take up our public hearing item. This item is an ordinance related to the police conduct oversight. The ordinance will amend, alter, and add provisions related to the police department and its duty, structure, and oversight. Before we open the public hearing, I want to welcome up Civil Rights Director Michelle Phillips and City Attorney Kristen Anderson to speak briefly about the changes in the ordinance. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, Vice Chair, and members of the City Council. The ordinance changes being addressed today are to Title IX, Chapter 172 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances related to the fire and police protection, police conduct oversight. The changes to the ordinance you have before you are the first step in addressing some of the unclear language. The changes to the ordinance 172.20D. The authors and staff included the police department in the tracking and production of data, as that responsibility does not solely lie within the Civil Rights Department. In Section 172.30C, data sharing, this section was edited as to ensure all CCPO members and members of the public had access to statistical data to inform their work. The consent decree requires substantial data reporting, so this provision will align, as well as the policy and research unit of OPCR that supports the CCPO, as outlined in paragraph 339 of the settlement agreement. In Section 172.40, review panel, clarification for the makeup of the review panels was added to ensure that at least one seated CCPO member is on each review panel. It must also be noted the review panelists volunteer a lot of time, energy, and effort in reviewing case files and information to prepare for the panels. Therefore, we clarified that panelists would be paid $50 per case per review panel session, opposed to multiple cases in one session. Section 172.60, CCPO, adds 5 panelists who will serve as temporary CCPO members should a vacancy arise on the commission. This is a temporary fix to allow for the CCPO recruitment to run through its appropriate course, and a actual permanent CCPO member will be seated. The 5 panelists will be recruited for the purposes of ensuring that we will have enough members to have review panels regularly to ensure there is not a backlog at the feet of the panel. This provision will stay in effect when the prior temporary amendment that added the civil rights commissioners sunsets at the end of the year. Additionally, this section clarifies the requirements for members to adhere to applicable policies, training, attendance, responsibilities, and provide for a forfeiture section outlining that a CCPO member not in compliance with any referenced policies and or procedures or requirements of the body will have then forfeited their seat. It is made clear that the CCPO members may request statistical data and anonymized case summaries from the Civil Rights Department, Policy and Research Unit that staffs the CCPO within the legal parameters as outlined by the City Attorney's Office. Lastly, in an effort to ensure there is an additional layer of oversight and accountability in the city, Section 172.20 audits was added to this chapter. This section outlines that the city auditor has the independent authority as set forth in the charter to audit police services and police conduct oversight systems, which is inclusive of its overarching authority to audit any department or program within the city. I stand for any questions, either before or after public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Phillips. I'll first pass it to Council President Payne.
Thank you, Chair Chavez, and thank you, Director. Just for the public, just to have a little bit of background, I originally opened up CCPO for amendment at the beginning of this term, and it was following some strengthened law at the state level. One of the very first things that we learned as we started this work is that there are some barriers to implementing that stronger state language at the city level because of the charter. And so that's going to be something that I'm going to be very interested in continuing to work on. Obviously, a city charter amendment is a much bigger lift than an ordinance amendment. So while we had the books open, we worked with our professional staff. I met with my commissioner at the time. I met with the chair of CCPO. We hosted a community listening session to try to gather feedback around what was working and what wasn't working. And one of the biggest areas that we identified was just the volume of cases that the body needs to review, and just the amount of time that these volunteers have to be able to sit in front of those review panels. And so as we think about how we can strengthen this through charter amendment, we can still make the body be more effective in terms of at least its capacity to review these cases. I also want to ground us in just some real truth that there's going to be limits to what a civilian review board can do. The authority of discipline is vested in the chief, and the oversight is the mayor's oversight alone. City council does not have the authority to make the type of personnel decisions around discipline and whether the matrix is accurate and whether or not we are holding people to the discipline matrix. Those are things that are outside of the scope of what we can do by ordinance. And I always want to remind ourselves that we do have the authority institutionally to hold our department accountable. That authority sits with the chief and the mayor. So I'm hoping that these amendments help to make it a more effective and efficient body for review, but I also want to ground us in some of the hard constraints around both our charter and the authority that is going to be limited within ordinance. So just wanted to share that background.
Thank you. I'm trying to see if anybody else is on queue. Okay. I did want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Rainville. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. Okay. It was Councilmember Jenkins. I had 3 right here, sorry. So Councilmember Jenkins and then Chowder, you were reflected. Okay, great. Okay. Awesome. And then I just wanted to remind the public that, as Councilmember Wansley said, there will be public hearing on immigration enforcement on August 5th. The resolution did pass in case folks missed it. I just want to at least clarify that for the public. Next up, we are going to proceed to open the public hearing. If you haven't signed up, the sign-up list is up there. I have folks right here. So you'll have 2 minutes to speak. And please announce your name if you're here to speak. I'll first call up Howard.
Good afternoon, Council Chair Chavez, council members. I knew when Michelle Phillips was coming to us, she is what Minneapolis needed because she knows Baltimore, she knows Oakland, and she knows that the civil rights right now, I told Omar, we're in an episode of Star Wars and you're a Jedi. We can't look to the DOJ. We need a robust civil rights department, and that partnership with the oversight. Case in point, I brought you Allison Lucier's aunt, Jana Williams. We're still seeking justice for Allison Lucier. That's on file. Jana told me down at Little Earth, there was an 11-year-old running around looking for Narcan because a 17-year-old was overdosing. They went to an MPD officer. The officer said, I'm not calling it in, you have to call it in. That 17-year-old was revived. But the oversight needs to do retraining of our first responders. Those officers did not have Narcan on them. The officer refused to call it in. That 17-year-old could have died. That's why we need robust civil rights, robust oversight. So please look into that. I've asked O'Hara Gomez to find out who that officer was who would not call that in.
Thank you. Next up, we have Michelle Gross. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez and members. My name is Michelle Gross. I'm president of Communities United Against Police Brutality and a Ward 7 resident. I'm here to talk very specifically to the ordinance proposal, and I'd like to first start with 172.20 D1, which is very technical sounding names. Basically in it, there's a list of data that must be revealed by the Civil Rights Department and or Police Department, which I think is a good addition. But I would add something else to this ordinance. I would add that in addition to the information that's listed, I would add the names of the subject officers, their badge numbers, and then for any complaints that are sustained, discipline, and past the grief period, the actual discipline. This would enable the community to know the full depth of what we're allowed to know under the Data Practices Act for any complaint, and it would prevent us from having to constantly do data requests to get that information. So I'd add that. Under 172.30C2, you've got in here that the anonymized records are, that provision is being removed, and that is a real problem. The reason it's a problem is that because the panel members only sit on a few panels each, they don't have the information they need about all the complaints in order to allow them to see the trends that are needed to work on policy. So I would recommend removing that strike through about the anonymized records. They should get those records. On the, sorry, got to keep up with my pages here. Sorry about that. A couple of other things on under 172.60. You've got that, again, that they have to, that the duty is to engage in research and study and provide policy recommendations. That's a great thing for them to do. That was the purpose of combining the hearing panels with the forward-facing commission members, putting that function all together. But again, cannot be done if you don't have access to a wide breadth of, may I finish just a little bit more?
It'll be, if you wait 10 seconds,
Yeah,
please.
I've got
Michelle.
two more little things.
And we
Under
can also email it.
172.60C2, you've got a requirement that, that panel members, or that the commissioners have CGIS certification. That precludes
Michelle.
lots of
And
people
Michelle,
who
if
have
you could-
ever had a charge. I'm almost done, I swear. Who have ever had a charge. And finally, and so that means a lot of people who might be customers of this body cannot be commissioners on this body. Finally, last thing, under 172.40, letter A, it says each panel shall be consistent of 5 panelists, and it lists 2 officers. We should get rid of officers on these panels. A lot of the officers that are on these panels that
Thanks,
sit on them
Michelle.
have
And if-
complaints
and if Michelle, if you could
against
please
them.
submit it to
Yes, I'm
public
finishing
comment,
up.
that would be great, 'cause
We
we
have
do
already
have
done
to
exactly
move
that.
on.
Nonetheless,
I appreciate it,
it's time
Michelle.
now. We got rid
Next
of
up, we
cops
have
on the
Dave
panels in
Picking.
PCI, ARC,
Dave
St.
Picking.
Paul. We should
Thanks,
get rid of them
Michelle.
here.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it, Michelle. Thank you. Okay, Dave.
Chair Chavez, I was going to go in for a point of order just on the time, but Michelle, I'll look for you after the meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
We would appreciate those public comments being submitted so we can read them. Hi, Dave.
Hi, my name is Dave Bicking, Ward 8. I was a member of the Civilian Review Authority back a long time ago when it existed, and I've been closely following civilian review since then. CUAPB has opposed the creation of the OPCR in 2012 and the CCPO ordinance in 2022. Both were designed to fail, and both have failed beyond expectations. They do not function as true civilian oversight. The CCPO in particular has become totally dysfunctional. The only solution is to scrap it and start over with a model that actually serves the community. The proposed amendments merely rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. The OPCR and the CCPO are dominated by the police and the city staff. In particular, the police have undue influence on the panel decisions due to their authority, experience, and long history of justifying and excusing police misconduct and police culture. At the very least, the police should not be on the panels. The result of all this is there's been remarkably little discipline for misconduct. What little discipline that has been imposed is largely in expedited cases in which the officer admits to the misconduct, thus bypassing the review panel process, or in cases where the officer has been convicted of a crime. Consistent discipline is important not just for punishment, but more so for establishing a deterrent and changing culture. The current system comes nowhere close, and 2 minutes comes nowhere close to what we need
Yep.
to talk about this.
Thanks, David. If you can submit those for public comment, even an email to City Council, that's really helpful. I'm going to ask folks to please stay to 2 minutes, because when I give someone extra time, that means I want to be fair, and I'm going to give somebody else more time, but I really need us to stick to 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Keith. Hi, Keith.
Hi, Council, and thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm just speaking as a private citizen. I've spoken before about the community oversight and accountability. I have a big trust issue, and obviously I'm not alone in that. We've seen over 30 years of history with community review boards and one way or another failing forward. And I can't even fathom a department that promotes an officer who couldn't even restrain himself for 10 seconds without shooting somebody to death as being the head of the use of force training. So, yeah, accountability and earning the trust of the public, I don't see it happening in my lifetime. And until that sort of behavior is corrected, I don't think we're going anywhere. That's what I got to say. And I look for justice for Amir Locke.
Put your name for the public record. That's okay. Okay. Next up, we have Christina Boerger, Ward 9.
I beg your pardon, I think I signed up on the wrong sheet. When it's time for Dykes Against Deportation, I'll call my name again, please.
And so what I'll say is that public hearing is going to be next cycle.
No
So-
talking about it today. Gotcha.
So today,
Thank you.
just so the public knows, because
fine.
that can be confusing on the public agenda. So
Sorry,
today we
everybody.
voted for the public hearing. That's going to be on August 5th. So that's going to be great. So for the public to know, August 5th, 1:30 p.m. in this room, the public hearing will that be for that as well. And Carol, are you here for the same thing? Is it for August 5th or today?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Carol Englehart, Ward 12, 50 years in RN. Many years in every position, I trained people how to respond to 911. And until George Floyd was murdered, I was confident the right action would be done. I applaud what we're doing now. A month ago, I had a car accident where somebody was going down 42nd, speeding like 70, 80 miles an hour, and sideswiped my car, and I pulled over. My blood pressure went sky high. The paramedics were called. The policemen were there. And they were so kind and respectful and responsive that my husband and I are extremely grateful. I want the staffing we have for police. I want the police we have now, but I want them to be held accountable. And I welcome the charter you're talking about. We need serious changes. But one thing that bothers me, I'm going to say, for every policeman that does a good job, let's be thankful. Let's be thankful, because I think we've ended up with this attitude of always seeing the wrong. And I'm here to say, let's stand up to the wrong and let's get this passed. And thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more people signed up to testify? All right. So, are there any questions or discussions from committee members? I'll pass it on to Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I know I've been in contact with Council President Payne regarding this, but I am going to make a motion to delay one cycle. I shared this in our Public Health and Safety Committee, but and this was brought up during the public hearing as well, in terms of what are some accountability steps that the council can do that's within our authority in response to the public and all of us learning that we repeated a pattern that led to George Floyd's death by promoting another officer into a position of leadership, and doing that in the same case with Sergeant Henneman, and knowing that the actions of that officer led to the death of Amir Locke as well. So this gives us a legislative opportunity to do that. I know a number of us are meeting with community advocates in the next week, especially families who've been impacted by police violence, around ways in which we could incorporate some of their feedbacks and suggestions into this ordinance. So I would like to take a cycle to be able to refine our amendments, work with staff, work with the authors around bringing those amendments forward, and a cycle allows us to do that. So with that, I will.
If you mind, I'm going to close the public hearing first because I didn't close it.
Go for it.
Thank you. So last call for public hearing. All right, so seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll now close the public hearing. Councilmember Wansi.
Thank you. So I will make a motion to delay by one cycle to take this up for consideration.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Cashman, are you on cue?
Not regards to the motion, but just to the underlying ordinance. It's just a question for Director Phillips. Apologies if I missed this in your presentation, but did you detail how we will recruit and select the new civilian reviewers?
It will be this, Michelle Phillips, Director of Civil Rights. It will be the same recruitment process that we have to do for CCPO members. We'll put it all out, and it's as outlined in paragraph 337 of the settlement agreement that we must do a diverse recruitment. So happy to share that recruitment plan with you if you don't have it already.
Okay. Will there be any other eligibility requirements other than what's required of CCPO members?
Yes, so there's additional eligibility requirements that is set forth in the ordinance because we want to make sure that these individuals are eligible to do any type of case within panels. So that also includes review panel cases that have CJIS data. Those folks are supposed to be able to pass the appropriate trainings as well as the appropriate background. CCPO members to be seated on the commission are not required to do so.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, happy to support this motion as well to delay one cycle, and just thanks to the folks who've been working on this. Thank you to you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or discussions from committee members? All right, seeing no further discussions, may I, on the motion to delay this to the next committee of the whole meeting, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Now I will return this meeting to Council President Payne as the chair of the Settlement Agreement Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The first item authorizes an increase to the contract with DLG Consulting and Advisory Services. They provide external investigator services to the Internal Affairs Division of the Police Department, and I believe MPD staff is here to answer any questions for this item. Do any colleagues have any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I will ask.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, it's not allowing any of us, because there's no main motion, to put ourselves into queue. But I am, there we go. I am just curious, did we indeed get the backlog cleared back in June?
Is there someone here that can answer that question? Welcome, and if you could introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Commander Rolf Markstrom, Internal Affairs, the Force Investigation Unit. Sorry, we were seated in the overflow room, so I did not hear the question, please.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, did we indeed previously get the backlog cleared as we had expected to by June?
Yes, the backlog is currently cleared right now. However, with the current staffing that we have within the Force Investigation Unit, we are not able to keep up with the amount of cases that's developed every month. We are under contract with DLG until June of 2026, so we are proposing to increase the funding to be able to keep up with the workflow that is going to continue to come in. Effective the end of August, when the force policy changes, our number of level 2 force reviews that will require a full quality assurance review of each use of force will more than double, from about 33 a month to 72 a month, which is another reason why we're going to need the assistance of DLG to keep up with our caseload until we're able to build the size of the unit.
Thank you. That's helpful information. It gives me confidence to know that we were able to clear the backlog, and I appreciate your sense of what the size of additional help looks like here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Cashman.
Thank you. Thank you, President Payne. I was wondering if you could explain why the new policy is expected to double the rate of reviews from 33 to 72?
Yes. Effective with the new force policy, takedowns, which are now considered a level 1 use of force, will become level 2 uses of force. And that's going to bring our level 2 uses of force that will require a full quality assurance review from around 30 to 33 a month to approximately 72 a month. So more than doubling the amount of QARs that we're going to have to complete every month.
And how, did you analyze how we could do this within our own capacity, and if that would be more cost-effective rather than contracting it out to DLG?
Yeah, so I'll let you know what we currently have for staffing now. We have 1 commander, 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeant investigators, 3 case investigators, and no analysts and no admin support. Under the current policy, when we look at the numbers, we would need to add 2 sergeant investigators and 4 case investigators in addition to a BWC analyst and an admin support. With the new policy going into effect, then we'd be looking at a total of 7 sergeants and 11 investigators in addition to the analyst and the admin support. And that's what we would need for staffing with our unit under the new policy when it goes into effect to keep up with our caseload.
Okay, so you would analyze that that would cost more to add those positions than the total $1.7 million contract of this consulting?
Well, I haven't personally crunched those numbers. That would be up to our implementation unit to figure that out. This is just a bridge to get us until we can staff our unit adequately.
Okay. Is there a plan for that?
Yes, there is.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for that presentation. And seeing no further discussion, may I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Abstentions? The ayes have it, and that carries. Next, we have a contract amendment with Benchmark Solutions to amend the scope of services in order to include a performance management module for MPD services. I will welcome up Nick Barkley to give us a short presentation about this contractual amendment. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. My name is Nick Barkley. I manage the early intervention system here at the Minneapolis Police Department. And just to make sure, can everybody see the presentation? Excellent. Excuse me. So I stand before you today asking to amend a contract that we have with Benchmark Analytics for our early intervention system to include an additional module that they provide, which they call performance evaluation. The contract currently in place is for $2,375,000 over 5 years. We're seeking an amendment to add another $109,480 to the total value of that contract for the addition of the module for performance management. As you can see here, it is broken down over 5 years with an additional cost of $27,370 for the additional module. The module doesn't change any of the other benefits that we have with this contract in terms of hosting or any fees or implementation fees or change order fees. Those are all included in the totality of the existing contract. This would simply be for an expansion of services allowed within the contract. Why are we looking for the performance management module? There are several reasons. One, the current way we do performance evaluations at the City of Minneapolis Police Department doesn't conform to the requirements of the settlement agreement or the language of the consent decree, which we have been ordered to implement as written. This system is highly configurable to the needs of policing profession, the unique needs of the policing profession. It is, again, very changeable, and no costs are incurred by the city for making any of those changes. So an example would be if a precinct wants to track certain measures of performance over a certain period of time, they would have the authority to make a specific performance management or performance evaluation question or form for whatever it is that they were looking to track. It will be used in conjunction with the first sign module, which is the early intervention system, as part of overall performance management and evaluation. Just recently, performance management within the police department was housed within the early intervention system for the purposes of keeping all of our performance management solutions in one place. And this will reduce the number of systems that our supervisors in particular are required to operate within the day-to-day functions of their supervision supervisory responsibilities. It also increases, the addition of this module also would increase the probability that we would achieve settlement agreement compliance on time as it relates to performance management. The addition of this module does meet several requirements of the settlement agreement as it pertains to performance management and would allow for that quick compliance to occur within the established deadline set forth in the agreement. And with that, I would stand for questions.
Do any colleagues have questions? I'll add myself to queue. I was curious, how are we managing EIS prior to this system?
EIS, excuse me, Chair through and committee, EIS has been managed prior to benchmark through a series of Excel spreadsheets and smart sheets and Word documents and email that have been, kind of living in different areas across the enterprise. We're directed by the settlement agreement to continue operating in that fashion until we have the system. This particular module is separate from the first sign early intervention system, but would be considered for evaluation as part of the first sign early intervention system.
So then as a follow-up, do you envision trying to adopt your current workflows in this kind of hodgepodge of documents and tools? Are you going to try to incorporate all that workflow into this centralized system, or are they going to kind of live parallel with each other?
Yes, good question, Chair and committee. The big win from my vantage point in adding this module is that there are several elements within the settlement agreement that require supervisor check-ins on a standard basis. Some of it's monthly, some of it's quarterly, some of it's annually. Having this module in place will do a couple of things. One, like I mentioned, it will reduce the number of systems that an officer or supervisor needs to work in. But two, it will allow for those annual performance evaluations to be built while accomplishing other required check-ins. In theory, being if we get this right, those monthly check-ins will then build upon themselves to make the annual evaluation much more streamlined and much more efficient. So the long answer to your question is yes, it will consolidate and make these processes much more efficient.
Cool. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Chowdhury.
Thank you, President Payne. I just wanted to clarify my understanding on the contract itself and just the budget allocation. So this specific item that we're looking at, it's for an amount of $109,000 and some hundreds of dollars, and it comes from a base contract that was passed through this council of $2.4 million, a little bit over that. I just wanted to make sure that my understanding was correct, or if there was a different budgeting aspect to this.
Yes, Councilor, through the chair, that is correct. This is an amendment to the already existing contract. This is not a new contract.
Great. And so it's just pulling from that allocated amount that already exists. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Seeing no one else in queue, I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
That's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? That item carries. The next item we have here is authorizing a contract with Wellness That Fits for mental health and behavioral support services for the Minneapolis Police Department. Here to speak more on this item is MPD Manager of Health and Wellness, Meredith Martyr, and Commander Reistafor. Welcome.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Meredith Martyr, and I am the Health and Wellness Manager for the Minneapolis Police Department. I'm excited to be here today to present on the contract with Wellness That Fits and provide a bit more context. So the settlement agreement and consent decree both state in the listed paragraphs the requirement for the city to offer tailored mental health services to officers, including trauma-informed care, substance use, stress management, peer support, crisis counseling, and training areas. In addition, the consortium research team, the independent evaluator who provided the needs assessment required by the settlement agreement, highly recommended a vast improvement in mental health services. ALIFA has required that we act on the consortium's recommendations to improve our services in order to fulfill the settlement agreement and consent decree. Therefore, the city recognizes the need to provide support to MPD officers that may expose themselves to significant danger, high stress, and a wide spectrum of human tragedy. Mental health and emotional wellness are critical to officers' health, relationships, job performance, and general safety. Furthermore, we know that law enforcement personnel face extraordinary psychological demands and are often reluctant to seek support due to stigma, scheduling barriers, and cultural mistrust. Therefore, the city must secure a mental health vendor that grounds their work in building trust and accessibility through services that are integrated, flexible, and trauma-informed. City Council had previously approved a similar contract for 2023 to 2025 with options for 2 additional years for a total annual compensation to not exceed around $950,000. However, the services rendered by the vendor did not meet our needs and have been determined that they will not fulfill the needs outlined in the settlement agreement and consent decree. We are requesting now a similar contract with increased services to fulfill the settlement agreement and consent decree requirements. The current vendor contract will expire at the end of 2025, and this new contract with Wellness That Fits will ensure that there are no interruptions to services provided to MPD members. And then just to give a little bit of background around Wellness That Fits, they are a collective of licensed mental health professionals that specialize in serving first responders and law enforcement across Minnesota, but primarily in the Twin Cities metro area. They offer comprehensive, culturally mindful, and responsive care that would provide exceptional care to MPD staff and loved ones. The contract that we have drafted between Wellness That Fits and the city focuses on the settlement agreement and consent decree requirements, including trauma-informed care, peer support team clinical assistance and consultation, and developing, reviewing, and providing recruit and in-service trainings. Wellness That Fits is required to follow all ADA, HIPAA, and legal guidelines. And we will have a 3-year budget cap of $2.76 million, and the total compensation shall not exceed $4.6 million. And just to give a greater breakdown of the specific services that would be included in this contract, we have them listed here on the slide. So first, an estimated 4,000 counseling sessions per year. There's going to be access to a 24/7 phone line offering support and referral services to MPD employees and loved ones. There will be a peer support team clinical consultation and oversight by a clinical lead. There will be urgent traumatic briefing sessions as well as major operation and multiple incident support systems and appointments. Annual wellness check-in appointments as needed or wanted. Family support services, which will be an array of offering support groups, family nights, and training specifically tailored to loved ones of first responders. They will also be facilitating an estimated 40 trainings per year on psychological support, resiliency, and trauma. And lastly, providing clinical consultation and presentations for departmental support as requested and needed. Thank you for listening to this presentation and considering the contract, and I welcome, of course, any questions that you have. Thank you.
Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, President Payne. I'm just going back to slide 3 and the specific sentence or bullet point around services rendered did not meet our needs. If you could share a little bit more in terms of what was missing in the previous contract that was not met.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember. Great question. So, well, first off, so of course, being under settlement agreement and consent decree, there are just very specific elements that have to be met within this contract. And so they're just general unique needs that I think are providing more exceptional high level of services and response that just kind of already limits the type of vendors that can respond as a whole to the needs of MPD. Wellness That Fits has the ability to customize and meet our needs, and so they're an agency that still kind of has the latitude to take in immediate feedback and immediately implement those changes, maybe versus compared to like larger scale national clinics, right? The services will also be better accomplished. So for example, the 24/7 line, that is a necessary requirement of the settlement agreement. And so that's something that they have guaranteed that they can provide to us and have provided almost step-by-step process of how they will implement that. And then also, they have, their clinical lead is kind of one of the top folks in the state for peer support consultation. And so she really provides a level of psychological expertise and prevention that I think our team would just love to be seen and applied to MPD.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for that information.
Thank you.
And then going over to slide 6, where it says at the top, estimated 4,000 counseling sessions per year. Can you share a little bit in terms of how we'll be capturing the usage of those, or like information around that?
Oh, sure. Yes. So just to give a quick background of why I said 4,000 counseling sessions per year. So what I did is I consulted the NIH numbers around just general national numbers of folks that access mental health services, and on average it's about 20 to 25% of the general public that will access specifically counseling. It's higher for psychiatric care. And so then we looked at the number of average counseling sessions to see, that marked mental health improvement. So depending on the type of therapy that is being used, it generally takes 12 to 20 sessions to see marked clinical improvement. And so based on that information and the number of staff that are at MPD, we kind of worked out a rough estimate of what potentially could be the upwards number per year of counseling sessions. I will just say in my professional clinical experience, it probably won't get to 4,000, but I think just to be safe, that's something that we want to like base that on the numbers and the data that we have. To get back to your other question, or your main question about how we're going to be tracking that data. So obviously considering the importance of HIPAA and confidentiality and really wanting to hold true to that, we are already in talks with Wellness That Fits, and this was part of their proposal to us of how they were going to track data that would be given to us so that we could, of course, report out the usage information, but would completely de-identify, right? Just for basic, we are only going to be tracking number of people that are utilizing specific services. So we won't ever know, the name of the person that's using, or even the rank or anything like that.
And do you know if that's like quarterly updates that you all will be receiving that, and when, I'm glad you mentioned the 25% average based off of the NIH figures, because I also was thinking that too, of we can't, of course, like receive sensitive or confidential personnel information, but do we have a metric of reaching that's either baked into the settlement agreement around like 25% of the 4,000, or so even just seeing how we're actually making use of the totality of the service?
Yeah. Yep, that's a great question, council member. So there isn't a specific requirement that's baked into the settlement agreement of like a specific goal that, we're supposed to get to. I'm a little bit biased as a clinical professional that I would love to see everyone and anyone accessing services, especially if they're free and accessible. That being said, I think that, what we're going to be doing with Wellness That Fits is trying to do a campaign that addresses the stigma and cultural mistrust and fear, right, of folks having access to this information. Did that answer your question?
And then the reporting that you all get, the frequency of that?
Yes, so sorry about that, thank you. At minimum, it's going to be quarterly. That's something that I personally would work with Dr. Brittany Miskowick, who's the director of Wellness That Fits, to potentially do monthly, but formally, at minimum, it will be quarterly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Those are the questions I had, President Payne.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in queue, I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? That carries, and I will return the chair back to Councilmember Chavez for our standing committee reports.
Thank you, President Payne. We will finish it off with standing committee reports. I'll first pass it to the Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee chaired by Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Administration and Enterprise Oversight Committee is bringing forward 17 items. The first is a gift acceptance from Local Progress of registration, travel, and lodging expenses. Number 2 is a collective bargaining agreement, AFSCME General Unit 2025 through 2027. 3 is a collective bargaining agreement, Minneapolis Building and Construction Trades Council, AFL-CIO. 4 is contracts with various vendors for interpreting and translation services. 5 is contract with various vendors for the 2025 through 2028 violence prevention services for a neighborhood safety department, and the amount not to exceed $3.1 million in total. 6 is a contract with Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity, Inc. for homeowner repairs assistance program. 7 is contract with Mitre LLC for recycling awareness campaign production and placement services. 8 is contract amendment with 2022 CIPP materials contract. 9 is contract amendment with Umojo Inc. in the support of Stage 1 of the SMART Grant Program. 10 is a contract amendment with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for engineering and design services for Pershing Fulton Residential Neighborhood Reconstruction Project. 11 is lease agreement with MNJV Crosstown LLC for warehouse and office space at 415 60th Street West. 12 is a bid for lead service replacements Year 2 restoration only project. 13 is a bid for construction on the second phase of the biochar production facility. 14 is a bid for plantings, sod, and maintenance for the First Avenue Bridge. 15 is a legal settlement workers' compensation claim of Daniel Drews. 16 is a legal settlement defense and indemnification of Minneapolis Bicycle Coalition. 17 is the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Aging appointments. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. No one is on queue. So next we'll go on to the Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee chaired by Councilmember Osman.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee will be bringing 25 items to the City Council. Item 1 is approving a liquor license for Butt Shack. Item 2 is approving a liquor license and 2 a.m. license for Animal Barbecue. Item 3 is approving extended hours of operation license for Mr. Desert and Kumbur in Northeast. Item 4 is approving an extended hours with business license operating conditions for Mr. Desert and Kumbur on Lake Street. Item 5 is authorizing a land sale for properties at the Arbor Harbor Terminal site. Item 6 is denying a zoning administration appeal for Douglas Kelly for the property at 4428 Edmund Boulevard. Item 7 is granting a variance appeal to Todd Peterson on behalf of Hiawatha ABC for property at 4640 17th Avenue South. Item 8 is approving 5 liquor license. Item 9 is approving 24 liquor license renewals. Item 10 is approving a 3 gambling license. Item 11 is approving 9 gambling license renewals. Item 12 is approving an amended business license operating condition for Pizzeria Lola. Item 13 is approving a restaurant license with business license operating condition for Hammerwin Cafe. Item 14 is approving a rezoning ordinance for property at 2933 Fifth Avenue South. Item 15 is approving a subordination of existing loan to Provision LLC. Item 16 is authorizing a loan forgiveness to the Joseph Cell Fagio Initiative project at multiple properties. Item 17 is approving additional award to Exodus Housing for development for project at St. Olive's. Item 18 is authorizing a forgiveness of Great Street Gap Finance Loan to Emerge Community Development. Item 19 is approving additional funding for the Little Earth project. Item 20 is accepting a youth work grant from the state for employment and training services. Item 21 is accepting multiple state grants also for employment training services. Item 22 is approving an appointment to the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on Housing for seat 10. Item 23 is resolution approving a land sales for the Hennepin County Housing Redevelopment Authority. Item 24 is approving amendment to the City Tenant Relocation Assistant Legislative Directive. And lastly, item 25 is authorizing agreement for new cowless center operator with Arts Nest. With that, I'll stand for any comment or questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cashman is on cue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to briefly comment on item number 5, the land sale at Upper Harbor Terminal. In Biz Committee, the LLC did confirm that they have labor peace with the IATSE union and that they plan to negotiate them, but they still have been silent on Unite Here Local 17, which is the hospitality union. And I represent many, many members of both Unite and IATSE who live downtown. And I just really believe that if we're investing in our performing arts industry, we should be investing in good union jobs in this industry where our residents can work there under a good contract. And so I really urge the LLC to talk to Unite, get to the table with them, or at least answer emails so that we can all move forward together on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else is on cue, so we're going to return back to you, Chair Councilmember Cashman, as the chair of the Climate and Infrastructure Committee.
Okay, thank you. The Climate and Infrastructure Committee has 9 items. Item 1 is an ordinance amendment related to the Special Service District's Advisory Board composition. Item 2 is an ordinance amendment eliminating the sunset provision for the West Broadway Improvement Special Service District. Item 3 is passage of a resolution accepting a grant from the Minnesota Department of Transportation for the South Falwell Safe Routes to School and authorizing an agreement for that grant. Item 4 is passage of a resolution accepting a grant from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency Resiliency Grant for Oliver Avenue South Flood Mitigation Project. Item 5 is a resolution accepting local road improvement program grant from MnDOT for ADA ramps in the Shingle Creek West Residential Project. Item 6 is approving an appointment for the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Thank you to all the residents who applied for the city board. Item 7 is authorizing renewal of the pilot permit program for personal delivery devices. Item 8 is approving a sound permit for the Walker Art Center for Avant Garden on September 20th. And item 9 is approving the traffic safety camera pilot framework. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. No one is on cue. So lastly, we'll go on to the Public Health and Safety Committee, and I'll pass it to the Vice Chair, Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. The Public Health and Safety Committee is bringing forward 7 items. The first is authorizing a grant application from the Minnesota Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for emergencies and disasters in accepting said grant. 2 is authorizing a joint powers agreement with the City of Brooklyn Park to conduct wage investigations. 3 is authorizing a joint powers agreement with the state of Minnesota to provide bomb squad services to other municipalities in the state. 4 and 5 are joint power agreements with the cities of Maple Grove and Minnetonka, respectively, to provide legal services. 6 is approving various appointments to the Public Health Advisory Committee. 7 is authorizing a funding agreement with the City of Lakes Community Land Trust for real estate purchase. This is to facilitate urban farming on the purchased lots. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. There is no one else on cue. So with that, we've concluded all business to come before committee today. And hearing no objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.